Hi, thank you for watching Digging to China. I'm Dong Sheng. If you have not done so already, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much. Today, I'd like to discuss a recent trending topic in China, a matter of considerable public interest in a rather unusual occurrence. On November 3rd, the Shanghai Lujiazui Financial and Trade Zone Development Corporation made an announcement regarding the severe contamination found on 14 land plots owned by its major subsidiary, Suzhou Green Coast Real Estate Development. The pollution levels on these plots far exceeded information disclosed during the auction by Suzhou Iron and Steel Group. Lujiazui alleged a series of infringements during the land regulation transformation and transfer process involving Jiangsu Suzhou Iron and Steel Group, Suzhou Environmental Science Research Institute, Suzhou Urban Environment Technology, Suzhou High-Tech Zone Management Committee, and the Suzhou Self-Regulation Bureau. These actions collectively resulted in the plaintiff acquiring land with substantial contamination. In response, Lujiazui has initiated legal proceedings against the mentioned entities, seeking compensation of more than 10 billion yuan in legal fees. This development has once again stirred attention in China, prompting questions about underlying circumstances. On October 17, 2016, Lujiazui secured the purchase of 17 land plots from Suzhou Iron and Steel Group for a substantial sum of 8,052 million yuan after 222 rounds of bidding. This announcement garnered considerable attention in China at the time. Following the revelation of Lujiazui's lawsuit, the initial reaction was one of astonishment, yet soon a sense of skepticism arose. Lujiazui, being a state-owned enterprise with ties to central government, is considered a formidable and influential company. How could it fall victim to deception by Jiangsu Suzhou Iron and Steel Group? With such a substantial land acquisition, the process should have involved mandatory environmental impact assessments. Why did these assessments pass without any issues when Lujiazui initially purchased the land? The sudden realization of being deceived has raised questions about the entire situation. Hence, the situation appeared quite peculiar, prompting Chinese media to quickly uncover the true background. Initially, Chinese media unearthed that Lujiazui's actions weren't driven by a sense of moral duty or high ethical standards to remediate the polluted land for responsible future development aimed at potential residents. Lujiazui wasn't motivated by altruism. Their original intent was to deceive, knowingly developing land they were aware was contaminated. So why did they resort to legal action later when they couldn't conceal it any longer? In June 2021, to elevate the land's value and market appeal, Lujiazui introduced an international school, England's Reading School. The agreement aimed to enhance the land's value by attracting high-end individuals through a bilingual school. However, during various procedural requirements, environmental assessments became a stumbling block. The government explicitly informed the reading school that the occupied land was contaminated and unsuitable for constructing a school. Having already paid for the land, including both the purchase funds and the government fees, and suddenly unable to establish the school, Reading School decided to withdraw and demanded a refund. Essentially, Reading School's withdrawal wasn't the main concern. The crucial point was that Reading School publicly disclosed to society that they had bought contaminated land. After the contamination of the 17 pieces of land owned by Lujiazui was exposed, the company, having concealed this information for 6 years, initiated negotiations with Suzhou Steel and filed a lawsuit seeking compensation. Contrary to Lujiazui portraying itself as a deceived and benevolent entity, it was actually Reading School, a British-run international school, that brought this issue to light. The complexity of the situation goes beyond Lujiazui's simplified claim of being deceived. Secondly, in a rather comical twist, media reports suggest that the Suzhou government opportunistically and greedily seized the moment, displaying unseemly conduct. Prior to establishing the school, Reading School deposited 1 million yuan as a guarantee. However, when other government departments, specifically the Resource Planning Bureau, indicated that the land was contaminated and unsuitable for school construction, Reading School requested a withdrawal and the return of the 1 million yuan guarantee. Nevertheless, the local development zone management committee refused to refund the money, arguing that Reading School had initially committed to completing the school construction within a specified period. If there were delays, the 1 million yuan guarantee would be forfeited. Since Reading School chose not to proceed, it was considered an additional delay, resulting in the indefinite forfeiture of the 1 million yuan guarantee. This reveals the extent of greed and unscrupulous behavior within the local government in Suzhou. On one hand, a government agency prevents the construction of a school, while on the other, another agency imposes fines, creating a situation of internal corruption. The authorities end up taking 1 million yuan from Reading School. This incident underscores the multifaceted nature of government actions, yet they converge on a shared theme: participating in unjust enrichment by engaging in blatant extortion. Thirdly, the subsequent unfolding of information has further cast a shadow over Lujiazui's actions. Following the voluntary disclosure of the contamination incident and initial wave of public support and admiration, Lujiazui, being a prominent enterprise in Shanghai, was initially seen as possessing a sense of conscience. Many believed that if Lujiazui chose to turn a blind eye and continue the development and the sale of properties on a contaminated land with government approval, it wouldn't have significant repercussions. In reality, Lujiazui has already successfully sold 6 buildings and maintains the capacity to continue such transactions. Now, as Lujiazui claims to act with a conscience and reviews the contaminated land, some Chinese individuals perceive it as an ethically responsible enterprise. However, recent revelations suggest that Lujiazui was already aware of the contaminated nature of the land and that there may be concealed truth behind the acquisition of these parcels years ago. In the initial plan, the Suzhou government had intended to sell the land to Peking University Founder Group. However, in 2016, the company was entangled in legal disputes with Guo Wengui, resulting in the removal of its general manager Li You by the board of directors. Seizing the opportunity, Lujiazui stepped in and secured extensive land at a price significantly below the prevailing market rates. The acquisition by Lujiazui itself raises suspicions of irregular transactions, shedding light on potential corruption and behind-the-scenes dealings. Whether the Chinese Communist Party has any inclination to investigate remains uncertain. Here are my takeaways. The initial observation is that this major news event in China underscores the tendency for significant social issues and events to experience multiple turns. Initially, when the explosive news surfaced, the severity of the contaminated land issue was evident. Simultaneously, there was a perception that the Lujiazui as a company exhibited a social responsibility. Despite no government prohibition on Lujiazui's development and sales, they could have chosen to feign ignorance, deceiving unwitting buyers for profit. However, Lujiazui opted for disclosure. While this might not fully recover all losses, it demonstrated a sense of conscience. Subsequent revelations in public opinion triggered by the disclosure initiated by Reading School, a British-run institution, exposed the true extent of the contaminated land. Furthermore, media coverage revealed that in 2021, after Reading School brought the issue to light, the central government's environmental inspection team also made public the contaminated land incident in 2022. This highlights the delayed response from Lujiazui, not just following Reading School's exposure, but also trailing behind the investigative conclusions of the central environmental inspection team. Ultimately, the acknowledgement was hesitant and gradual, emphasizing the substantial nature of this turnaround. The second insight revolves around the major players in the contaminated land incident, namely Lujiazui and the Suzhou Iron and Steel Group. However, the true puppeteer orchestrating the event is the Suzhou government. The land sale isn't a straightforward transaction between two commercial entities. Every aspect is carefully managed by the government. They provide legal documents, certifications, and environmental assessments, all green-lit by government authorities. In public discourse on the contaminated land incident, Chinese opinions either condemn the Suzhou Iron and Steel Group or accuse Lujiazui of manipulation in China. Regrettably, public attention consistently sidesteps holding the primary actor accountable, the Suzhou government. This pivotal player hasn't yet taken the spotlight in public discussions. Consider this. Without every government department giving the green light, how could these 17 contaminated plots be sold? Moreover, Lujiazui has already sold 6 buildings. What responsibility should the government bear? During the sale of these 6 buildings, the dispute over Reading School's contaminated land had already erupted, indicating that the Lujiazui continued selling properties despite being aware of the contaminated land. These observations underscore the lack of responsibility and social conscience among these enterprises, as well as their disregard for the rule of law. Simultaneously, the government's complete involvement and support in this illicit transaction throughout the process are evident. If the government openly sells contaminated land, it would be extremely alarming. Therefore, if the Suzhou contaminated land incident does not ultimately lead to the government being held accountable, it would be a form of societal self-anesthesia. While many are mocking Lujiazui and the Suzhou Iron and Steel Group, it is crucial for Chinese public opinion to focus more on investigating what the responsibility the government should bear in this major crisis event. The third aspect brings up a crucial question. Does pollution only affect the land under the jurisdiction of the Suzhou government and the Suzhou Iron and Steel Group, constituting genuine contamination or toxic land? Clearly, this isn't the case. So why is Lujiazui the sole entity seeking compensation and resulting to legal action? In reality, when Suzhou Steel transfers the land, they explicitly communicated the issue of contamination to Lujiazui. The site, having been a former steel plant, bore substantial pollution. However, Lujiazui didn't treat it seriously. Why? Because during that period, China's real estate market was flourishing, and as long as they secured the land and constructed houses, selling them was not a concern. The transfer of polluted land was a common practice in China. The primary overarching reason behind the Lujiazui suing Suzhou Steel for compensation lies in the burst of the Chinese real estate bubble, resulting in a decline in property prices. Additionally, the exposure of contaminated land by Reading School triggered homeowners to demand refunds. According to Chinese law, under such circumstances, homeowners have the right to seek refunds and developers must comply, offering compensation. Unsold properties further depreciated in value. Faced with the prospect of a significant development project remain unsold, Lujiazui had no option but to confront the possibility of bankruptcy and liquidation. In an attempt to salvage some losses, they are now accusing Suzhou Steel for deceit. In the fourth aspect, the compensation claimed by Lujiazui, the homeowners seeking refunds, all these revolve around the issue of toxic land. The land is significantly contaminated, containing elevated levels of benzopyrene, an extremely carcinogenic substance, surpassing acceptable levels by more than 50 times. This raises the question, what about the well-being of the construction workers throughout these years, who has taken responsibility for their health? They are the actual and direct sufferers who rightly deserve compensation. However, amid the intense focus of current Chinese public opinion, the safety and welfare of these construction workers appear to have been overlooked, marking a truly unfortunate turn of events. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment and subscribe to my channel. Just click the subscribe button right here. I'll see you again shortly. Until then, be well.